Vande Jagadguru.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Shanti Sham.
Anil bhai 11 નથી આવવાના એટલે I guess we can go ahead and start.
Okay.
Okay. So last time we kind of came to basic idea of shunyata. એટલે I'm going to sort of summarize that part and then go forward.
Right.
Okay. So Buddha has three kayas, dharma kaya, sambhog kaya, nirman kaya. We already talked, which can be sort of viewed in terms of human form, sagun Brahman and nirgun Brahman. So Mahayana doctrine is the one that talks about not only helping himself or herself, but also talking about liberating and helping others as well. So that is Mahayana doctrine, which is the most dominant doctrine of Buddhism. And that is a sort of a second level of Buddhism. First level was Theravada or Hinayana path, which got modified down the road over next several centuries. And that sort of became the dominant school all over the world. We talked about the similarities of Buddhism and Hinduism, and the key will be that they believe in rebirth, they believe in karma theory. The only thing that they don't believe in is absence of Atman. That is where they differ. So the three major differences are they don't accept Vedas as the supreme authority. They don't accept Atman concept. They believe in Anatman concept. And they are not necessarily devotional or theistic. They don't have any concept of God per se. Just like Jainism doesn't have a God that is incarnated. It is like Tirthankar that goes up, the ascends on the hierarchy. So they similarly have no clear concept of God. The later part of Buddhism began to use Buddha himself as a God-like figure. And in 6th, 7th century, Shankaracharya essentially, while refuting Buddhism, used Buddha as a God, incarnation of God himself, as a ninth avatar. So Hinduism sort of took Buddha into our avatar concept. The Buddhism itself doesn't believe in that idea. So this was a dialogue between Buddha. This is the doctrine of Theravada. And this is what Buddha appears to say. So the disciple is asking Buddha, what is it meant, Lord, by the phrase world is empty? Buddha replies that it is empty ananda of a self or of anything, the nature of self. So that's his answer. And what is this? What is that is empty? So he basically answers the five senses and mind and the feeling that are related to mind. All these are void of self and anything looks like self. So that is the basic idea. So he is talking about shunyata arising in the mind. That mind appears to be a temporary phenomenon and beyond that lies nothing. That is what he's saying. So his idea of emptiness is that's what it is. And since then it went through a lot of metamorphosis in the idea to a point where it becomes like a gobbledygook, it's like a puzzle. Is it there? No, it is not there. It is not there. No, it's not there. It is there and not there. No, it's not there. It goes on like that. So I gave an example. That is a kind of classical example that I can come up with. Basically, the question is, I'm asking Dinesh Bhai, is the bicycle black? Dinesh Bhai says, no, it is not black. So then I ask the question, is bicycle white? He says, no, it is not white. The third question I'm asking, is it white and black? Chatapata che. So he says, no, it is neither black and white. So then the last question so it is not black and not white? No, it is not black and not white. The Buddha is explaining this, Nagarjuna is explaining like this. He says that you are presupposing that the bicycle has a color. So when you are arguing it's black or white, and you are saying neither of the two, you are presuming it may be blue or green or red or whatever. But his concept is the very first question that you are asking is a wrong question to ask. because the bike is colorless. So when you begin to ask the question, you are making an assumption that something is there. So he's basically arguing is that you are making an assumption that there is an Atman, and you are trying to figure out but his basic assumption itself is wrong. There is no Atman. That is his idea. Am I making sense? Yeah, Dinesh bhai. તમારો અવાજ બંધ છે.
મ્યુટ છે.
There could be an Atman, but it has no characteristic. Is that possible?
Yes, I mean, there are multiple variations of those arguments down the road. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Am I any question beyond this, or should I go forward? Okay, let's go forward. Pratap, I cannot. Let me just move this so I can see. At least one more person I can see.
No, he said forward.
I said go move forward. That's right.
Okay, all right. Okay, I cannot see Ashok bhai. I can see rest of the four. So Ashok bhai, if you have a question, just say it. So Nagarjuna's concept is all experience phenomenon are empty. This does not mean that experience itself is not there. Experience is there, but there is no permanent structure underneath that experience. That is what he's saying. So you do experience like a horizon, a ક્ષિતિજ આપણે જઈએ કે આકાશ ને જમીન ભેગા થાય છે એવું લાગે આપણને દૂર. એટલે you experience that, but it's not there. So his argument is that you do experience what you are experiencing, but it doesn't exist actually. That is his argument, which is similar to what Shankaracharya is saying, by the way. But we'll come to that. Utilizing Buddha's theory of dependent arising, Nagarjuna demonstrated futility of metaphysical speculation. So the argument is this: Vedanta argues that what you are experiencing is there, but it's not real. And there is something beyond that which is real. But that is the speculation, according to Nagarjuna. Because you don't know that is there. So Nagarjuna says that you are arguing about something that itself is a speculation. So he doesn't accept that there is, he agreed with the idea that there is, what you're experiencing is not true. But he doesn't go next step, that there is something beyond that. Because he says that that is only speculation. That is not a reality. That is his argument. But Shankaracharya will argue is that the one that perceives that experience must be there. Otherwise, how would you know the experience? That is Shankaracharya's argument. So that is a back and forth argument that both of them have over the centuries, Buddhism and Vedanta itself. Nagarjuna's method of dealing with such metaphysics is referred to as middle way. So he basically neither accepts it nor rejects it. He says that is just a speculation, so don't even bother with that. So that is called middle pathway, which is amnu પણ નહીં અને amnu પણ નહીં. Okay, so this is Shankaracharya's concept now, exactly reverse of that. What Shankaracharya is saying is this: Brahman is supreme, it is the reality, one without the second, it is pure consciousness, free from any taint, it is tranquility, does not change, it is joy forever. So Satchit Anand concept. That is Shankaracharya's concept. Most of the Buddhist school will not go up to this point at all. They will just stop at the early part of mind intelligent complex, and that's it. No more speculation beyond that. So Shankaracharya will say the illuminator seer knows the ultimate reality, which is infinite, absolute, without parts, pure consciousness. So that is what Shankaracharya's Vedantic concept is. And that's a second step that Buddhism doesn't accept. So now let's talk about emptiness. Heart Sutra is one of the major texts of Buddhism. Now, how they play with the words? Yeah, Dinesh bhai.
So Rajan bhai, how do the Buddhism explain that when you are in dream state, susup, and you tomorrow morning you wake up and you say, I had a wonderful sleep. Who is that I?
Yeah.
In Shankaracharya's way, it is the consciousness that is there that recognizes.
Right.
But in Buddha's way, if consciousness is not there, then
Who is perceiving that?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a legitimate point, and we have several slides that argue gobbledygook argument, but I'll come to that. Just give me a
Okay.
few more minutes slides. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. So emptiness of Heart Sutra. Body is nothing more than emptiness. This is what it says. Now, this is English translation of the stanza. Body is nothing more than emptiness. Emptiness is nothing more than body. The body is exactly empty, and the emptiness is exactly body. So you can see how much gobbledygook it is. But you get the point. The four aspects of human existence, feeling, thought, will, and consciousness, are nothing more than emptiness. So it's already using consciousness
Is empty.
as emptiness. So you can see that they don't accept consciousness as a pre-existing condition. They say it's emptiness. So you can see that difference. And the emptiness is nothing more than they are. So you can see how they play with the words. We'll come to your point, Dinesh Bhai, soon. Okay. Huyana school of Madhyamika, which is Mahayana school, which is also kind of gobbledygook. All dharmas, that means all activities that you experience in life, are seen as a separate events. All events are expression of an absolute. Events and essence are interpenetrate. Yeah. And all events are interpenetrate. So what it says is that there is a connection, but the connection starts with nothing permanent. It is a cycle that keeps on moving without any permanent structure. That's what he said. And I'll explain that further in a couple of the slides down the road. But really speaking, it is confusing. You're right. So now Nagarjuna's point, I simplified in bicycle example. But this is what he says now actually. All things exist. One concept. It is affirmation of being and negation of non-being. So that's one concept, right? Everything exists. It's affirmatively yes, and not other than negative. Okay? All things do not exist. So affirmation of non-being and negation of being. All things both exist and do not exist. And all things neither exist nor do not exist. So you can see how much confusion that they create. But that is how they view it. So how they explain emptiness is this is how they explain. Okay. To say all things are empty is not to deny any kind of ontological foundation. So ontology means something that is basic from which everything come about. So that what is the first thing that is called ontology? So now he's arguing again completely weird way. So it doesn't mean that there is no ontological basis, but he says, next line he says this. It is a kind of ontological anti-foundationism. So he says there is no foundation of basic. So nothing is there from which everything has come up. Now that's another idea. When he says nothing means there are two ways, nothing and no thing. So nothing, he says nothing is nothing. So he said there is something, but that is nothing. Now, Shankaracharya will argue is that something must be there from which everything came about.
Right.
And Buddhism will say, once you say thing, it becomes an object. There is no subject anymore. So he says, there is no thing. No thing is not nothing.
That's a shunya.
That is shunya, right. So you can see how complex the argument is. But this is the argument. And I can tell you that there have been centuries gone by. This debate has gone through many morphological evolution. And this is no easy way to explain. But this is the best I can come up with. Okay. So understanding the nature of emptiness of phenomenon is simply a means to end, which is nirvana. So basically he's saying that once you understand the world is empty, that is the end. That is the nirvana. Don't go worry about if nothing is empty, what is beyond that? Don't go to that point at all. Once you understood that this is empty, the world is empty, you have reached the point of nirvana. That's the argument. Nagarjuna's philosophical project
How can, yeah.
is
I'm
ultimate.
not proof.
Yeah, go ahead.
If they consider that the world is empty, nothing is there, so what they are in the world? Empty?
We are a temporary phenomenon that comes and goes. We are like a flame that flickered for a while and disappeared into the smoke. So we came into the existence like a bubble, like a water foam bubble. When you blow the bubble,
Yeah.
we just came into existence like a bubble and it burst and it's gone. So the world is like that.
Permanent. So that means there is nothing permanent.
There's nothing permanent, right?
Okay.
So does that mean that there was nothing before the bubble and there is nothing after the bubble? The bubble just came and went.
Right. And the sequence of bubble will continue.
That's right.
But each bubble is separate, is
Separate.
separate from the other one, though it is interconnected, because it's coming from one same source of nothingness.
So whatever you are doing in this birth,
Is
That's
all
it.
that matters.
that's it.
Right, exactly right. Right. So
આજ કરવાનું is not connected. તો પાપ પુણ્ય કઈ જ નહીં. અત્યારે બહુ પાપ કરું તો બી કઈ આગળ નથી જવાના, પુણ્ય કરું તો બી આગળ નહીં જાય.
Buddha has given two answers. One is that if you believe that this is all it is, and this is shunya, this is emptiness, then you will do good things. But if you believe that there is something connected, then you will still get the benefit if you do good things.
Right.
So you do good things, whether you get the benefit in next life or not doesn't matter. If you do good things, it will help you in this life to get the nirvana. And if it does help you in the next life, you still are doing good both ways. That's his argument.
Oh.
He says, don't even worry about beyond that. That's his argument.
I declare myself Buddhism from now.
આ બધા બોન્ડ થાય છે અને આમ કે પાછળનું કર્મ લઈને આયા હોય છે તો they have some kind of you can see કે એના પાછળના કર્મનું લઈને આવ્યો છે એમ એવું લાગે આપણને કારણ કે એક જણથી થાય ને બીજા જણથી ના થાય તો how it happens.
By the way, don't think that they don't have explanation. They do have it, but it's kind of, we'll come to that point, and there are about 5 or 6 slides about that too. But
This guy has a question.
they are complex arguments. They are not safe for easy to understand argument, but their arguments are there. Okay.
So,
All right.
Rajan bhai,
Yeah.
so for a Vedantic person, would it be all right to us where Buddha says emptiness, is that same or similar to consciousness?
Yes. Some scholars have argued that emptiness and fullness are the two sides of the same coin.
Right.
So Buddha looks at one side, Shankara looks at the other side, but it's the same coin.
Okay. Because everything you have said, mentally, I can replace that emptiness or nothingness with consciousness, and still Vedantic mind would say, yeah, it makes sense.
Right. And the example will be like this. Buddha looked at the half glass and presumed that nirvana is the empty glass. Shankara looked at the half glass and assumed that moksha is the full glass.
Right. Okay.
So both of them looked at the half the glass.
પેલામાં એમ્પ્ટી થવાનું ને આમાં ફૂલ થવાનું.
Right. And if you remember the example that I gave you, that monk, when he starts pouring the tea, that guy starts pouring the tea, he says, stop. And it starts pouring out of the cup. He says that your mind is like this cup. It's already full of impurities. Unless you empty yourself, you will never learn the right thing. That's his argument. So empty yourself of this notion that I exist. And then you will reach the state of nirvana.
Right.
Okay.
That
Okay.
makes sense.
Thanks.
Nagarjuna to stress the importance of losing attachment. So basically, Nagarjuna is arguing now is that you lose the attachment of this impermanent I-ness or ego, that I am Dinesh or I am Pratap or I am Rajan. You lose that attachment, and once you lose that attachment and become detached from it, you reach a state of nirvana. That's his argument. So don't cling on to, because ego is the one that will drive you to the world. So you lose your sense of ego, and if you lose the sense of ego, then you will reach a state of nirvana. That's his argument.
Mhm.
And that is basically Buddha's argument that Nagarjuna amplifies down the road. So now, last line I'm going to read. See how he explains. Everything is such, not such, both such and not such, and neither such nor not such. So did you get the bicycle argument? Everything is white, not white. Everything is black, not black. Everything is white and black, not both. Everything is not black, everything is not white, neither of the two. So that's his argument. Now this is Nagarjuna's explanation of Buddha's explanation. Now these are the questions that, some of the questions you already raised, Dinesh Bhai, and Nainaben also raised. So these are the questions that are question of debate. So if there is no Atman, and if the existence is really null and void, then what is that reincarnates? That's the first question, right? If there is nothing, who is coming back? Why should one bother about karma if there is no Atman? Beyond death, what controls karma? If karma is independent, is karma independent or dependent? If nothing precedes or supersedes karma, that means nothing comes before or after karma, then whose karma are we paying? Right? If I'm doing something, what karma I'm paying for, or what will I be paying for in next life or whatever, next time? During enlightenment, if one merges with the void, how is one aware of merger? If you say that I'm going to merge into void, if there is no consciousness, how will I know that I merge in void? Right? If I don't even, I stop existing, then who knows that I stopped existing? So these are the debate. These are the questions that have been debated back and forth. Is Shunyata aware? If there is a Shunyata, how does Shunyata know that is Shunyata? If the void or Shunyata is an ultimate, then what is that perceived Shunyata? Something must have known there is a Shunyata, right? And that itself is consciousness. That is the argument Vedanta will say. Yeah. So you can see the point that Dinesh Bhai and Nainaben raised. So we'll try to answer some of those questions now. Back and forth. None of them are satisfactory, by the way. So first is a Bhava Chakra. The Bhava Chakra doctrine is similar to karma theory, reincarnation theory. The rebirth doctrine, reincarnation or metempsychosis, rebirth in one of the six. Buddha said this is from Buddha, that one ends up with 6 ways after death. So there are 3 good ways and 3 bad ways. So what are the 3 good ways? You go become Deva. You become Asura, demigod. Now Asura in olden times, if you remember, I told you, Asura had a different meaning. At the Vedic time, Asura was supposedly good, not bad. So when he talks about Asura, he's talking about demigod, not Asura in the sense that we use now. Okay? Or Manushya, that's human form. So if you do good things, these are the 3 ways you will end up with. Either you become Deva or Ardha Deva or human in the next life.
આપણામાં બી છે ને, I mean, જન્માક્ષરમાં તમે, I don't know, some of the people believe or not, પણ જન્માક્ષરમાં આપણો વર્ણમાં લખી જાય છે દેવગણમાં જન્મ થયો કે રાક્ષસમાં થયો કે મનુષ્યમાં થયો. જન્માક્ષરમાં એવી રીતે આપણા હિન્દુઇઝમ લખેલું હોય છે.
I think remember that Buddha was a product of Vedic society. So he knew all those concepts. So he modified some of those concepts and accepted some of them. So what he is doing is basically using the basis of Vedic society and modifying some of the ideas that he did not like. So you can see there are three ways he says good things can happen to you. And I think you're, I mean, as you say, it corresponds to something similar. Yeah. And then there are three evil ways that you will manifest down the road, which is in the form of animal, ghost, or you will go to Narak, hell. So he says these are the 6 ways that one will reincarnate in the next life, which is not different from, yeah.
Reincarnate तो कैसे?
But,
Yeah,
but,
yeah,
this,
Dinesh bhai.
but this itself negates his argument. He does accept the fact that there is reincarnation, that people
Right,
come
yeah.
back, and that's what he taught not to believe in. So this negates his arguments.
Yeah, but I think there is some subtle argument further down the road. So wait for it. Okay.
Okay.
It's not as straightforward as we think it is, by the way.
Okay.
Besides nirvana, traditional Buddhist practice is centered on gaining merit and transfer of the merit, whereby one gains in the rebirth in the good realms or avoids rebirth in the bad realms. So he does accept there is a merit that it gets transferred over to next life. He does accept that. But his argument is slightly different than our Vedantic argument. So now the question is, what is reborn, right? That's a question. That's what Dinesh bhai asked.
Yes.
Buddha. Difficulty in explaining what is reborn with no self and impermanent doctrine. So that's the basic question. So Buddha Ghosa explains this. Lack of self or soul does not mean lack of continuity. So now he's beginning to make a very finer argument. Lack of Atman or lack of permanent structure, it doesn't mean there is no continuity itself. They said there is a continuity. And how? It occurs in the same way a flame is transferred from one candle to the other candle. And the argument, there is a picture down the road. It basically says, if I hold a candle and there is a candle next to me, and if I touch the other candles, whatever the stuff is called, the other candle will weak, right? Weak. So other candle will open up, and this candle will eventually flicker and die as the wax dissolves. So then the question comes down to his argument is that did anything transfer or not? His argument is that there was a momentary continuity, but not a permanent continuity. So this candle A, lead candle B, and candle B, lead candle C lead candle D. So the question that we are asking, he says, it is nothing. A got transferred to B, got transferred to C. So there was nothing permanent. Understand that there was no entity called basic candle from which A got transferred and B got transferred. Only A got B and B got C and C got D.
એમાંથી બી માં બી માંથી
But
કર્મ એકમાંથી બીજામાં જાય ને.
if you look at candle, then you are right, A and B and C. But if you look at flame is the consciousness that gets transferred.
You're right. But what he's saying is this. I mean, that your point is well. What he says that the flame itself is a flickering thing. The flame will come in existence and will go away. It is not the same flame that got transferred. The flame that got connected to the next flame is not the same flame that was there in A. That's his argument.
Okay.
And I told you that it's not, it requires a lot of kind of intellectual argument. It's not necessarily straightforward argument. But his point is well taken. That he says this is what it is. There is no fire from each flame came out.
Right.
Like if there was a big fire and one came this way, one came this way, one came this way. He says there was no such thing. There was one flame that got transferred to second one got transferred to third one got transferred to fourth one. But there is no permanent fire structure. That's his argument.
Okay.
Am I making sense?
Yeah.
See, Vedanta says, yeah, go ahead.
Who transfers the flame? એમને તો થાય નહીં ને કેન્ડલમાં એકમાંથી બીજામાં
But
કેવી
this
રીતે
is an analogy. It's not necessary. It's just
Okay.
basically explanation. You know,
Okay.
it's just that just think about it. We are ourselves. We go through changes in all our life. Our cells come and go. You know, we are born with cells and they gradually die and new cells come and new cells and then they die and new cells. So the question is, if I was born with the cell of a baby and now I'm 60, 69 years old, their same cells don't exist anymore. They already have disappeared. I've gone through many more changes. So the question comes down to, are these current cells have any connection to the previous cell when I was born? Buddha's argument is no, there is no connection. It is just that one group got transferred to second group got transferred to third without any continuity or without any permanent structure. That's his argument. Whether you accept it or not, that's besides the point. But that's the argument. And I mean, there is some logic to it. It's not like you are.
આપણે પેલું આપણે કે જીવાત્મા કહીએ છે તો આપણું ફિઝિકલ બોડી અને મન એ ભેગું થાય એટલે જીવાત્મા થાય.
Right.
પણ આપણા એમાં છે તો કોન્શિયસ એટલે પરમેનન્ટ આત્મા છે આપણે વેદાંતિકમાં. જ્યારે પેલામાં પરમેનન્ટ આત્મા નથી.
Certainly. There is no third layer.
ઓનલી પેલું જીવ અને મન ગયું એટલે પછી બીજા ઇઝ ગોન એમ.
Right. Vedanta says also is that the one that carries Pradap.
What about the light in the flame? It is the same, right?
The quality of light is there, but it is not the same light. You know, if you think in terms of, I mean, Vedanta will say is that the light of the fire is same.
Right.
Whether it manifests like candle A, candle B, candle C, doesn't matter.
That's
And
right.
this guy says, or at least Buddhism says, is that it is a temporary, like a flickering flame that came in existence and then became a smoke. So it never survived by itself.
So-
What it did was to touch the other one, and the other one touched the other one, like that. So it is a continuation in that way, but no real one entity permanent underneath that. That is the argument.
Okay.
Any question beyond? We can go forward.
So again, basically, if the two weeks didn't touch each other, there will not be a light. So the 2 weeks have to touch each other in order for that continuity to occur.
So that is what he says, that there is a continuity, but not the same thing that goes transferred over. So there is a connection, but not the same one, not the underlying base upon which the connection happens.
એક કનેક્શન ટ્રાન્સફર થાય ને.
Yeah, that is why he says, that is what he's trying to explain. Buddha Gosai is trying to explain is that lack of Atman doesn't mean there is no continuity. There is a continuity, but there is no permanent structure underneath that.
Right. I mean, if you agree with that logic, it makes sense.
Oh, it does. I mean, if you look purely from Buddhist point of view, I mean, there is some validity to the argument. Whether you agree or not, that's beside the point.
Yeah.
So is it like a flame is considering like a reproductions, like a babies? I mean, people meet, produce baby, one go to other, and that's
It's a spontaneous phenomenon that arises by 5 skandhas in your mind. You know, so when mind interacts with thoughts and feelings and all those things that we talked about earlier, you know, it creates a flame that survives for a period of time, gets transferred over to the next flame. But just think about it. When we think, આપણે બેઠા હોય, I mean, this argument at some point, you know, આપણે બેઠા હોય, so we have just sitting and doing nothing. We have hundreds of thoughts, right? And many of them are not connected to each other,
yeah.
right? But they're still happening in our mind. So you can argue that they're not connected, but they're still connected because they're happening inside the mind phenomenon. You know, if I start thinking about car, then I start thinking about car was made in Germany or Japan, and then I think about Japanese person, and then Japan invaded China, and you know, just goes on like that, right? So there is some continuity,
Yeah.
but they are not same thoughts,
Yeah.
સમજે. Yeah.
right? એટલે his argument has some validity. They're somewhat connected, but not necessarily in the same